The tariffs are upon us. From the New York Post, President Trump says the U.S. is going to start notifying trade partners of tariffs as high as 70%. President Trump said his administration will begin notifying several of its trading partners of unilateral tariffs as high as 70%, escalating trade tensions as markets closed for the July 4th holiday. Quote, "We are going to start sending letters out to various countries starting tomorrow," end quote, Trump told reporters late on Thursday. We probably We'll probably have 10 or 12 go out tomorrow, and over the next few days, I think by the 9th, they'll be fully covered. And they'll range in value from maybe 60 or 70% tariffs to 10 and 20% tariffs. The president added that the tariffs would take effect on August the 1st. The administration's 90-day pause on the stiff reciprocal tariffs unveiled in April expires this coming Wednesday. And we will see how that plays out. It should be a good boost to our economy, or maybe not. I mean, there's different schools of thought on that. People believe that perhaps the tariffs rolling out may cause prices to raise, which they could in the short term. Of course, companies, they try to come up with any way they can to raise prices in order to maximize their profits, but we'll just have to see as time plays out. So I did a bit of diving into the list of tariff percentages to the U.S. by country. So it's not an exact number. I just wanted to see if I could get just some sort of a ballpark. But the most recent data on the U.S. tariffs by country reflects policies implemented back in April of 2025, with a 90-day pause announced on that day for most countries except for China. So as of right now, there is a flat 10% tariff applied to imports from all countries, with China and Hong Kong facing a 30% tariff, which would be a 10% baseline plus a 20% additional tariff. This follows a temporary trade agreement reducing China's tariff from a previously announced 145%. That was wild. Certain products, such as copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, lumber, bullion, energy, and specific minerals, are exempt from these tariffs. And additionally, steel, aluminum, autos, and auto parts, they face a separate 25% tariff. So if you have an older car like me, and if you foresee working on your car or replacing certain auxiliary parts, now might be a good time to stock up on some of these parts. Maybe oil filters or what have you, spark plugs, things of that nature. Not that that costs a whole heck of a lot of money as it stands, but 25%, I mean, if you're going to put in an alternator for your car or something like that, something that might cost hundreds of dollars, you might save a bit of money if you just go ahead and get it now if you can afford it. But anyway, USMCA compliant goods from Canada and Mexico are also exempt from the baseline tariff, though non-USMCA compliant goods face a 25% tariff and 10% for Canadian energy and potash. Due to the dynamic nature of trade policies, specific country-by-country tariff percentages beyond the current 10% baseline, with the exemption of China at 30%, are not detailed in the available data after the April 9th pause. So for historical context, before the pause, reciprocal tariffs announced on April the 2nd included higher rates for specific countries. So if Trump keeps the tariffs where he announced that they were going to be on April the 2nd, this is what it's going to look like for a handful of countries. For China, 34%. For Vietnam, 46%. Cambodia, 49%. And 20% for the European Union. 32% for Taiwan. 26% for India. 24% for Japan. 25% for South Korea. 10% for the UK. And also 10% for Brazil. Now, these rates were suspended, and the 10% baseline applies until at least July the 8th, pending further negotiations or policy changes. For the most accurate and comprehensive list of current tariffs, check the official sources such as the U.S. Trade Representative, USTR.gov, or the World Trade Organization. So the other thing that I wanted to ask, which I got a pretty decent answer for, was the estimated amount of tariffs in USD paid to the U.S. over the next year. A list by country. So it used the following methodologies and assumptions based on 2024 U.S. import values from the U.S. Census Bureau and whatnot. Also, the 10% baseline that's being applied in addition to the 30% for China exclusively. And also the import volume, the 2024 import volumes, assuming that they remain constant, basically the same this year as they were last year, that also gets factored into the list that follows. Estimates a 6.9 trillion reduction over a decade. All right. Well, we'll just have to see. People do got to tighten up their budgets. So, exclusions, exempt goods, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals are not explicitly accounted for due to limited data, but are assumed to reduce tariff revenue just slightly. And the time frame will be the estimated time frame covering July 2025 to June 2026, assuming the 90-day tariff pause does end on July 8th, with no further changes to the rates. So here it is. This is the estimated tariff revenue by country in billions of dollars. China, it's looking like $1.67 billion in tariffs are going to be received from China to the United States. And it looks like the amount of money that we do trade with China amounts to $438.9 billion. So for Canada, $437 billion. Dude, we really do that much trading with Canada? That's crazy. Isn't Canada's population only like 35 million people? That's absolutely crazy. So anyway, $43.75 billion in tariffs are expected to come from Canada. Mexico, $47.56 billion in tariff revenue. The European Union, $57.66 billion. And then they have it broken down by country. Germany, $15 billion, or almost $16 billion. Ireland, just about $8 billion. Italy, $6.74 billion. And France at almost $6 billion. Japan is expected to pay almost $15 billion in tariffs, and $11.34 billion will be coming from South Korea, $6.6 billion from India, $10 billion from Vietnam, almost $9 billion for Taiwan, $6.6 billion from the United Kingdom, Brazil, $3.72 billion, Russia will be less than $1 billion, so it'll be roughly around $700 million coming from Russia, which it's looking like that a 20% tariff may be applied to Russia. And then other countries, the remaining imports, roughly estimated right around $600 billion at 10% will amount to about $60 billion. So the total estimated tariff revenue looks like it's going to be projected at around $400 billion, which is what JP Morgan had projected. But summing these up, we could collect approximately $400 to $450 billion in total. And of course, there's the exemptions that they mentioned once again. And the demand reduction is something that they are factoring into that list that I just went over. 6.9 trillion import reduction estimate over a decade. Hopefully, so it says higher tariffs may decrease import volumes, as seen in Penn Wharton's 6.9 trillion import reduction estimate over a decade. Hopefully, that also estimates that we're going to be receiving a lot more of our companies that went overseas. Hopefully, we'll see a lot of them return back to the U.S. and we'll start producing more domestically, which I'm hoping that is going to be the major driver for a $6.9 trillion reduction in tariffs. Hopefully they come back home, man. That's what we need. We need more production here, more factories, more innovation, the whole 9 yards, especially if they want to keep flooding immigrants into the country. They got to work somewhere. Every adult in America, they've got to earn money one way or another. So anyway, retaliation, foreign tariffs, e.g. China's 32.6% on U.S. exports, may disrupt trade flows, indirectly lowering U.S. tariff revenue. So, and then there's a little bit more detailed information that it figured would be factoring into that list of tariffs. But yeah, man, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of tariff money that we're not getting, that we're going to be getting. So where it's going to end up, I don't know. Hopefully it gets pumped into the deficit. I think that's where it should go. It definitely shouldn't be going toward the creation of other programs in the federal government. Hopefully every dime of this is put into trying to reduce our deficit in any way that we possibly can. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.